Hi, welcome to the Momwire series. And so I've got a question for you today. So, what's up with moms? Yes, I am here to talk to and with Tiffany Peterson. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, love. Thank you for
Hey,
having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I mean, Tiffany is a life and business coach. She is a keynote speaker. And when she's not on a big stage capturing hearts, you should check her out online because she provides so much love and content and authenticity. And she really just delivers a lot of connection. And so I am so happy to have you here, Tiffany. I really am. And real
Mm,
briefly, how Tiffany and I met is through, I went to one of her events called Elevation. And through Elevation, she offered the opportunity to be in an inner circle, which at the time I was a big, like, what, inner circle? What does that mean? And I got an understanding of what it meant. And for me, it meant the world because it was life changing for me. And I will always, always be so appreciative, Tiff, for all that you have done and how you
mm.
show up. So thank you.
Oh gosh, girl, it's so good to be with you. You guys know as you're following Lynn's journey, she is one inspiring woman and she just continues to grow and she's just always working on her next level. And so I'm excited for us to collaborate today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. So the question of the day that we're kind of poking at or whatever is what up with moms? You work with a lot of moms and you have
hmm
that really unique perspective of kind of gathering and looking and seeing with a little detachment, but also you're in the thick of it. So that is my question of the day. What are
hmm
you noticing is kind of some of the biggest issues of late with moms or some of their biggest struggles or what do you see? Like what's up with moms?
Mm. I think there's a couple of things. There's a few core themes, and we can go as deep as you want with all of them or just one or two of them. But I would say for all human beings, and women especially, and many of them being moms, the biggest wound for all humans at some level that gets manifested on the regular is some rendition of I'm not enough, right? I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not organized enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not smart enough, you name it, fill in the blank for men and women, right? It's not just women, but everyone's biggest wound to look at that gets in their way or gets manifested. And mom guilt's one of those ways is some rendition of I'm not enough is the core wound that's at play. But I feel strongly like I want to tuck this into, and then you can guide me where we go next,
Whatever.
is for women especially, and these working moms that I have the great fortune to coach and work with and help them grow their business and help them grow mostly themselves, which then we work on their business too. But it's so much about the self journey, right? As you know, and for myself, for everyone else. But specifically with women, a lot of times there's still this residual need to ask for permission, right? Is the healing of the feminine and the healing of womanhood. There's been a lot of the past of waiting for permission, right? Waiting for that validation. And so a lot of times the moms I have the opportunity to work with, what is getting in their way the most is still some form of permission seeking or validation seeking. Is it really okay? Right? Like in my world, I'm mostly only coaching women who are growing a business while they're doing motherhood. And so oftentimes that feeling of, gosh, is this really okay? Am I still going to be a great mom if I pursue this passion that I have? It's sometimes it's that. And it's a variety of other ways it can show up. But I would say that you see the very most with women is, am I enough? And is this okay? Is it all right? Can I launch this, like this great program you've created, or write that book like you've done and doing? Or can I really grow my real estate business or my interior design or whatever the things might be? Is just some form of permission is often what's in the way. And a lot of times, Lynn, it's about the permission to succeed. Even more so too is the real fears a lot that we're afraid of isn't if I'll fail, it's what if I'm successful at this and it changes my whole life and it changes my motherhood. Is a lot of that fear is what lives underneath.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a good point because I think it is that permission on so many levels. Permission to succeed. And then what does that look like? If I succeed over here, is that going to make me unsuccessful over here? And I chose to be a mother first, for example. And that's where I got hung up. I was like, how can I do both? I won't be able to do either to what I expect of myself. So
Mm,
I'll cut off this to be able to think I can feel success over here. And even still, there are so many other layers of that onion of permission. that permission to be myself in a society that expects a certain thing from a mom, that expects kids to show up in a certain way, et cetera, et cetera. So that point of permission is so good because it seems super layered. Super.
Mm-hmm. It's very layered, and I think we live in a different day and age than our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers did. The dynamics with social media, the dynamics with possibility and opportunity, and you nailed it already, is it's around our expectations. Is that, for some of you, you're saying, I want to have the perfect house, and then I want to have, the perfect healthy meals happening on my table, and I want to grow that in my backyard and then prepare those types of healthy meals every day and be for all my children's activities. Oh, and I also want to build a 6 or 7 figure business, and I want to serve on this board and that board, and I need to be involved in that girlfriend group, and I need to be here. And you see, I'm already just tired saying all those
exhausted.
things. Right. But this is what the modern woman is struggling with, and it's the bigger issue, or the root is what you already hit, is the expectation. Is, do you have healthy, realistic expectations? Would be a great question for any of you listening to look at, is looking at that for yourself. Is the reality is that there's a book I read years ago, and I may have given you a copy of this, I don't remember, but it's a woman named Shonda Rhimes, and she's the producer of all the ABC, like Grey's Anatomy and Scandal, and she wrote that book, The Year of Yes. Do you remember? Have you read this book?
I read this book. I don't remember exactly when. Love that book. And for me, right, I turned it into The Year of No, because I needed to go opposite.
Yes, so exactly. Great.
Yeah.
But the permission, one of the things she talks about in that book that I bought it for so many of my women friends, especially my mom friends, where she talks about, she has these young children, and she's also running a major part of a network, and she has this massive career but really wants to be connected with her kids. She said the number one question I'm asked as a woman regularly is, how do you do it all, right? Or her interviews or magazine interviews or television or whatever. How do you do it all? And she says, I don't. And that was liberating, because again, somewhere it's this superwoman energy, like, I got to do all the things. She's like, I have a great house manager. I have a great nanny. I have a great assistant at work. I have a lot of people doing the parts to help this whole machine run, and that I can be a checked-in mom and grow my business, my career path. But that was so liberating, is that, you might have an unrealistic expectation, because the difference of our mothers or grandmothers even is that today you scroll a little bit of Instagram, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of it, but you got to be really careful, as all of a sudden you see that mom that's got, she's making homemade treats for her children. And even if you're a mom who's like, hey, I baked cookies for my kids at school, and you get online and scroll, and Jennifer, who lives 2 doors up, she made a homemade lemon meringue pie for her kids after school. And we live in the land of comparison, and that needs to be addressed. Anytime you're on social media, you're activating the part of your brain, it's just naturally you're in comparison of, right? And most often that comparison will leave you feeling inferior if you're not mentally and mindful about it. Is you could say, wow, look at that woman who's got a rockin' body. Well, yeah, she's in Pilates 7 days a week. She isn't building a business, but you're comparing your body to her body, or her home, or her career accomplishments. Is the reality is we try to think, oh, I'm going to do it all. And that is a formula for mental and reality of, I think, a lot of struggle and a lot of challenge.
And we give these ideas that there's all this stuff behind it. Like, oh, that perfect pie or that perfect body or whatever was without struggle, was without sacrifice of something else. Like you, I totally agree on social media. It's awesome. And it's a wonderful thing to connect us, but the comparison is really disconnecting of us. Like, I always wanted to do a show, like, those cooking shows where they're like, oh, all the ingredients and this, and look, and I made this with my kids, and isn't it lovely, and the plate is perfect, and there's a perfect food shot. I wanted to do a show of like, okay, we're spazzing to get the ingredients. Oh, crud, we're out of milk. We got to leave for soccer. Yeah, we're going to hit McDonald's. And just go, yeah, that's what's real.
Real life. Exactly. So I think a lot of that, then we go, well, how do I change that, Tiff or Lynn? How do we change it? And I think it begins with first clarity of purpose, and clarity of expectations, and clarity of what works best for you in your life. I think that's always a good place to come back to over and over again. And from there saying, okay, for this season of my life, right? There's a fantastic book I love, Also, I love The Year of Yes. I love the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And I think we talked about that in Inner Circle, and I
Yeah,
think that
you
was
did
one of
give
our
me that book.
books.
Yes, I still
Well,
refer back to that.
it is one of those, I have like 5 books I go back to every year, Lynn. Like I reread, listen to them. Essentialism's on that top 5 list because it's such a clarifying, great for clarity, great for direction. But he talks about this is in our life is asking the question, rather than focusing on, well, what do I have to give up in my calendar or my expectations? Because humans, we don't really want to give up anything, right?
No.
But he asks a brilliant question in that material where he says, what are you all in for? And my Tiffany Petersonism to that is, I like to say, for this season of my life, what am I all in for? What are my top 2 or 3 priorities, right? Not 27, not 17 even, maybe top 2 or 3 that you're all in for, that get that prime time real estate of focus, time, and attention. Because there are seasons to life. When you have a newborn child, that is a different season than when you have a second grader or when you have a middle school or a high school or a college kid. There are different seasons to your motherhood, and there are different seasons to your business. When a business is brand new, that is a different time and energy and focus than when you've been in it. I'm almost 10 years in. And
Wow.
so I have a lot more systems and things in place where, sure, I'm in creation of new, but I've also, it's different. I have a 10-year-old baby child than a newborn. And so I think understanding that question for me has really helped me. It's to say, for this season of my life, you might be in a season of growth, right? Like I love the Bible scripture that to everything there is a season and a purpose under heaven. Is there are seasons to plant and nourish and to grow and hustle. And then there are seasons to reap and harvest. And there's seasons for our families. I mean, where it's like heavily focused, and seasons of a new business or a charity or something that you're involved in. I just think it's being aware that there are seasons to things, and none of us are doing all the things all the time at full capacity. That's just
Yeah.
not real. It
You're
doesn't
not going to go
exist.
shovel your driveway in the summer. What's the point? And so, yeah, why spin your wheels on what you're not in the season of? I love that. I like the clarity of that, because that can give you like the focus on where you are in this moment and the permission just to be there and not do those 5,000 other distracted things. I mean, I've talked to some moms that are in the thick of those toddler days, and those are
Mm,
long days. And I love the saying for that, which is the days are long but the years are short, which is so true.
mm,
And I've talked to a couple of moms lately, and I said, what would you think about in your spare time writing a letter to that child, that 2-year-old or 3-year-old who you really kind of want to strangle today, but like when they're 18, as if they're leaving for college? And when you can
mm.
get that perspective, that season of today is like, I can do this. I can do this because we're going somewhere. We're getting somewhere. So the perspective of seasons is great. It really is.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Because I think what a mindset shift, which is really the work we both do a lot of, is mindset, right? That's where the majority of things we're working on. But I love, thank you for that. It's just, gosh, my child is 18 and they're going off to college today. Might help you handle that, 2 or 3-year-old having a complete meltdown with a little more perspective. It's also okay as moms, again, back to permission. It's okay to sometimes your kids bug you. It's also okay that permission that they're like, hey, this child is just driving me nuts today, right? Is that releasing the judgment, right? Which I love about your new book that's coming out,
Hmm.
is the dynamic of overcoming the judgments that you've had to learn, because that's where we create a lot of our own suffering, is our own internal judgments
Yeah.
that we often have for ourselves. We're not somewhere measuring up to perfection. And the perfectionism is poison. It's a form of paralysis. It just keeps you stuck and it saps the joy out of life, right? But I know you know that
Well,
because you're writing about it.
it's an illusion, right? Trying to go for perfection in something is an illusion. So you're just going to spin your wheels. So what do we go for instead? What we're clear on, what we're good at, what brings us joy. Oh my gosh, I learned the best thing from you. And of course, I promote this idea too. And it's the idea of joy listing. I never knew that before. I never sat down and identified what brought me joy. And Tiffany taught me, write down 15 things that bring you joy that cost money and 15 things that bring you joy that do not cost money. And I tell you what I have found over the years. A, I'm always adding to it. And B, when it's something that just happens that I've already identified as joyous to me, it's all the more joyous. It's like the times when my family is just sitting around and we're being total dorks and cracking up about something ridiculous that pretty much only we would understand and everybody else would be going, that brings me so much joy because it's just so funny. And then when that happens, like just organically, I'm like, oh yeah, this is one of those pre-identified joy moments. So like, wow,
Mm.
it's here, it happened. And I didn't manufacture it. I didn't go out and create it. And it's just, thank you for that tool. It's beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome. I love it. And I love that you're magnifying it in your own life. And to your point, yeah, you can add on it. And so as she's saying, make a list. What are things that put joy in your life? Because joy is like the fuel in the tank, right? It helps you through some of those tough moments of motherhood or those tough moments of growing your business or whatnot. It's just, we know that happier people are healthier. Happier people are more successful. That doesn't always work. The research doesn't go the opposite way, that successful people are more happy, but happier people are more likely to be more successful. And so it's being in charge of your own joy, right? Like you're the architect of your life, as I love to say. And that means like, let's put more joy in your life. And to her point, as she's already outlined, is come up with a list of some that cost money, some that don't, and that we live them more regularly. I think that's a way of how we kind of create more savor, right? More mindfulness and more like enjoying this day that we're actually in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Take the time literally to smell the roses or flowers or whatever it works
Yeah.
for you. But no,
Or
you
peanut butter and chocolate, you know?
right? Yeah, dark chocolate in by myself
Yeah.
in the pub. Just saying.
That's me, man. I'm just like, yeah, my joy list includes peanut butter and chocolate on it. So there you go.
I'm in. I'm definitely in. Oh my gosh, we could probably talk for an hour. We could probably talk for 3 hours. But
3, yeah.
so many good points. I mean, just like even addressing that not enough thing. And I'm probably going to end on this question. That feeling of not being enough. And that's something I have worked through myself extensively. I've talked to a lot of people who do, worked with you on that question in Inner Circle and all that. If you had maybe like a quick piece of advice or an anchoring to when we get that message or we get that hit or we get that ping, like, oh, I guess I'm not enough, or like it comes up. Do you have advice or thoughts on going, not today, I'm worthy and here's why, or what? I mean, any thoughts on that?
Oh, I love that we're going to talk about this. So thank you. Because I really feel like at the core of my favorite part of this work that I get to do is this work, is the self-love and self-relationship, is you are in a relationship with you, and that's where it begins. And like any other relationship, you wouldn't expect a relationship to thrive unless you were investing in it. So if it's your marriage or your friendships or any other thing, we understand the concept of nourishing to create, right? Like I love to say, what you water grows and what you ignore dies. And so anything in life, whether it's a plant or your body or a marriage or your relationship with you, what we water grows and what we ignore dies. And so foundationally understanding you're in relationship with yourself. You're not just a meat suit walking around on the planet to only be about meeting the needs of everybody else. It's choosing to have a deeper intimacy and a deeper friendship with yourself. To make that choice is that, relationships, some relationships we get in our lives, a few of them are lifers, right? You're like a friend or a companion for life. And a lot of our relationships are seasonal. And sometimes there's multiple seasons. We might spend 15 seasons with someone or 4 seasons while we go through college, and we were like best of friends in college and then move away and life goes on. And it doesn't always mean there's a falling out, of course not, but just there's seasons to relationships, right? But you're the one companion guaranteed to travel your entire life path with. And so it's making a conscious choice to say, I want to be better friends with you. I want to take better care of you, meaning yourself. And I have a 3-part series. There's 2 free resources I would like to share. One is I have a YouTube channel that's got a lot of content on it. And it's just my name, Tiffany Peterson. But there's specifically a 3-part video series called Self-Care Equals Success, parts 1, 2, and 3. And you'll learn about 3 different specific habits that help you increase self-confidence. Because everyone knows the more confident you are, the better that is throughout your life. When you feel better, you perform better, you show up differently in relationship. But those 3 habits will help you in cultivating that. There's also on my website, which is tiffanySpeaks.com, there is under the free resources tab, a self-care guide that you can download. There's a full worksheet of looking at body, mind, heart, and spirit, is how you start to actively nourish that through, like you mentioned, self-talk and your mindset and reading or visualization, time for meditation perhaps, in your body, moving your body, good rest, nutrition, taking time for your heart or your joy, like we've talked about, your heart space, and then your spirit and whatever spirituality means to you. But doing things that nourish your spirit is, if you choose to be in the business of relationship with you intentionally, right? You're already in relationship with you. It's just intentionally, if you're saying, I want to nourish that, I want it to grow, I want to be healthier and happier in my own skin, I want to be a better parent. Part of your desire is to say, I want to be a better mom or dad or parent, or I want to be better at work or with anything, is that you, when you feel better, your relationship with you sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. Plus, I think it's really important as moms that we're modeling for children how to be healthier, to be the architects of their own happiness. Because one of the ways that we set ourselves up to fail and then model for our children is expecting that someone or something outside of you is responsible for your happiness. And understanding that at the core, I remember one of my sheroes, as you know, is Oprah Winfrey, right? Yeah. She's on that vision board, right? That's right there, right? And a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to hear her speak live here in Salt Lake City, my first time being in her live presence. Yeah, I put that in a manifesting journal. She came in town to speak at a really cool tech conference. And I've been reading her book. She has another great book. So here's my third book recommendation that's showing up on this share, right? Because I'm a book nerd. I love books. I love Audible too. She has a book called What I Know for Sure, which I highly recommend every human to read. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But if you don't know a whole lot about her background, she was born in the Deep South. And in a time she was born in, lived in a home with no electricity, no running water. She was an accident, right? I don't believe that, nor does she, but
bonus babies, what I like to say.
Bonus babies. But her parents were together one time. They weren't married. They happened to get together. She was conceived. There was no baby showers welcoming her into the world. She was hidden and it came into the world out of a lot of shame and a lot of fear. And she learned at a young age, like, she was responsible for her happiness. And she went on to say, and I know that can sound or feel heavy-hearted, but where she takes the life lesson of that is she learned at a young age, like, my happiness is in my hands. Yeah. And so even if you have amazing relationships in your life, celebrate them. I think we all have amazing relationships, whether a close friend, a great partner, great children, whatever that might look like for you, and celebrate those relationships. But it's also about being invested in the relationship with self is so important. And so Lynn, it begins with a decision to make a choice, right? To say, I choose to have a better relationship with me. I choose to have better self-talk and self-esteem. And owning it as a decision, not something that might land out of the sky, like today I'm in a good mood and I don't know why, and tomorrow I'm not, and I have no influence. Is, yes, things and people and environments influence you for sure. But it's being intuitive to say, I choose to have a better relationship with me. And therefore I choose some behaviors and habits that I'm cultivating, not perfectly, but committed. Mm-hmm. Perfect, no. Committed, yes, right? Into nourishing that relationship so that what you're watering will grow. Yeah. And that relationship with you is, I think as we get a little bit older as women, right? I think once you move on into your 30s, into your 40s, you start to realize, like, wow, I want to be better to me. I want to have a better relationship with me. Mm-hmm. I've spent a lot of time being very harsh and critical and judgmental. We've probably all been there. Yeah. And it's like, that's not the internal environment I want to have anymore. Yeah. I want this to be a safe, comfortable, like a sanctuary. I want to treat myself. As you might remember from Inner Circle, we talked about the question at times to model for yourself that inquiry of, what do you need, sweetheart? Mm-hmm. And to come internally. So when you are triggered, when you are sad, when you are upset, when you are lonely, whatever's coming up for you, and those things come up for all of us, is to go internal to say and ask yourself, like you would a cute 4-year-old, what do you need, sweetheart?
And yeah, and that's a great thing to pause and recognize too. And if you're out of the habit of it, it's great to take that question and make a habit of the question, because then you'll get in the habit of that nurturing of yourself, especially if it's brand new to you. And wow, that was all just so well said. And I will say to those people who've joined us at the kitchen table here, do yourself a favor and check out that self-care worksheet and the self-care videos, because if you will do that for yourself, you will really walk through a process and you will see who you can become through that, how that will change you, what things you will open up to and go, wow, I've been a little asleep at the wheel, or maybe you're already doing some of these things and it's a good refresh or some new ideas on some self-care things. And so this has been so great, Tiffany. Thank you so much for all your comments and your time. And I will definitely include those links on the comments below. And those of you who are feeling like you want to comment on this, we'd love to hear what you have to say about our chat today. And we'd love your take on it, because everybody has something to say and we'd love to hear it. So thank you so much for joining in, Tiff. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I just want to acknowledge you as a woman that I just have deep love and respect for. This woman, keep following her and what she's up to. She's, as long as I've known her, she's always on the cusp of growth, and she's always committed to doing good with her life and her time. She's an amazing woman, amazing mom. So thank you for inviting me into your fun, sacred space to share a little bit today. I love doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming, and we'll have you back.
Awesome. Thanks, loves.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye. Remember to subscribe.